Good morning. It's a Yorkshireman living in Wales, and I'm back again. So today what I'd like to talk about is how we came to have the 20 miles an hour. How I think they did it, because that's been a question. Also to try and look at some of the words used, and also look at when you're a bad person you get done for driving at 25 miles an hour in a 20 zone or 22 miles an hour. Where does your money go? So as I was searching on the internet, I then came across this document, and as you can see it says setting local speed limits government, and it highlights the difference between speed limits and zones. And this I think is important, because as you look at this slide it says quite clearly zones and limits are now widespread, but then it says that does not mean they should be introduced on every road. There should be careful consideration of the safety case and local support to ensure their use is appropriate. Now I'll come back to the word should, but as you can see 20 mile an hour zones require traffic calming measures. Now to do that, that means putting chicanes in, that means building speed humps, that means a range of more expense. Now that expense of course is from our pocket, that's our money. But then when we look at speed limits, we can see that speed limits basically do not require traffic calming, which also means they're cheaper. Now I can imagine that when the Welsh Government decided this is what we're going to do, somebody said, oh, well, it's going to be difficult because we're going to have to do speed zones. And then somebody else turned around and said, no, you're wrong. I'll tell you what, all we need to do is a speed limit. Because at a speed limit it's a lot cheaper and we can do that. And then the other person, well, what do you mean we can do it? So I should imagine that basically they then said, well, look at this here. So all we need to do is just signpost it and that's it. And then they said, and the key word here is at number 3. Local traffic authorities have the power to set these speed limits. So at that point, the government said this is what we're going to do, and then they said to the local traffic authorities, use your power. Now, you can also see that at number 4, community support, it's important to have local support. Now, we know that doesn't exist. Maybe it did in the olden days, but we're now living in a time when power is the key motivation to get things done. So just under 500,000 people in Wales did not like this. That's out of a population of 3.1 million. However, they ignored it. I remember watching it on the Senate. They said, oh, you're a bit stupid, you don't know about this and you don't know about that. Or, well, we didn't explain it to you properly. Now that's code for we didn't explain it because you're so stupid and simple. Because according to them, that's what we are. So I have a feeling basically what's happened is they've just said, well, we can do these limits. And someone says, right, that's what we're going to do. Now the other reason, I suspect, is if they wanted to do the zones, you have to be more careful with the zones. In addition to that, everybody in the local area would start asking questions. Well, why are you putting a speed hump on this road? Because there's nothing there. Because there's one house and that's empty, or there's one house and they work away, or there's just one house and there's nothing else. Why are you doing it? So I actually think as well they did it on purpose to avoid any opposition. In addition to that, they could just do loads of these speed limits and just put them already. As we already know, you're driving along and you think, well, what's the point? So you go in summer, still no person. Go in summer, winter, still nobody about. But this is what they want to do. So as you can see, now going back to the words, when anything says should, then they don't have to do anything. So when you start to look at documents, and if you work in public authorities or the public sector, what you'll find is a lot of the documents have words like would, could or should. Now if they exist in, say, a policy document, then it's worthless. Now in the olden days it might have meant something because it was guidance and a policy, but the word guidance doesn't mean anything. They just ignore it these days. So when something has got more of an action word like require or must, then that policy is worth looking at. I wouldn't dismiss bringing the policies to someone's attention just to say, well, you're not following this, but just be aware that you could put a lot of time and effort in for nothing. Because I've noticed that documents these days, where they used to be 30 pages, they're now 120 pages or they're 80 pages, and then there's a supplementary document, and I call it document warfare, because the aim is to stop anybody finding the information, because you have to wade through 8 tons of paper, which ironically we pay for. So we're basically paying to stop ourselves finding the information. And the people who are doing it are the people with the power. Because if someone said to me, "I'll write this document," normally I'd say, well, what's the minimum wordage I can get away with? I wouldn't say, oh yes, I'll do 8,000 pages then. I mean, that's just a farcical world to live in. So the other aspect people wonder is, well, where does our money go now that more people are being fined? Well, it goes to the Road Safety Trust, but it sort of goes in a circular manner, because the Road Safety Trust owns UKROD, which is a non-profit company, and they run the National Driver Offending Retraining Scheme. So let me go back to the Road Safety Trust. They are also a charity, and this company here are also a charity. So when I was trying to work out where the money goes, I then looked at it all and I thought to myself, right, this seems a bit convoluted. So I've done a little bit of a nice diagram. So basically you pay to the National Driver Offender Retaining Scheme, and it can be between £80 or £120. Now they of course will take out their course delivery costs, but in addition to that the police take out £45. So, and then UCRID itself takes out £4. Now any money left over goes into the Road Safety Trust, and they decide who they want to give it to. So unbeknown to a lot of people, believe it or not, you're actually funding charities. Now I always have an issue with that, because a charity should be something who I agree with the aims and I want to give my money to. To me, this is more like compulsive giving, so you don't have a choice in it, which I don't agree with at all. And I actually don't think it's clear, because I had to dig quite a bit to find this information out. So for those wondering, you know, do I need to support any more charities? Well, rest assured, you do. You support lots of charities. And remember, in a lot of like companies like Sustrans, your money goes to them. They're also a registered charity. So you, unbeknown to yourself, and I do, support many charities. And to be honest, I won't even give them a pound coin. But I'm a Yorkshireman, so I won't even give them 5p. I'd rather give that to somebody else. If I'm giving money away, it's got to be to a local cause which I agree with. This, I think, is a tad underhand. So, at this point, I'm going to sort of finish this video, because when I've done this before, what's happened is I've run on quite a bit. So consider this as part 1. So part 2, I'm going to look at the data they're using to try and convince us. But I'll also try and give you an insight of my take on the data and how it's designed to manipulate us. So tick subscribe, and if you know anything different to me, just put it in the comments, or if it's anything worth following up. Thank you for watching.